Welcome to Oh, Hell No with Nicole.
Okay, welcome to another episode of Oh Hell No. Today I have with me Lisa, who is the woman behind In Their Closet. Welcome, Lisa. Thank you for joining me today. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited to talk to you because I love your podcast and I just want to get in your closet. So
I used to get questioned a lot about what was in my closet. Like, I would love to see your closet one day. And so that kind of helped propel the name that I came up with. A number of reasons, but that was one of the reasons because I used to get asked that all the time. What's in your closet?
Yeah, you always look so nice in the pictures that you post on Instagram. So you definitely,
thank you.
I'm sure your closet looks very nice. So, what is In Their Closet? Like, what is that?
So, In Their Closet is a podcast about the outward beauty as well as the inward beauty. We focus a lot of attention nowadays on how people look, and people are, because of where we're at in 2017, people are becoming more and more friendly with people through social media and different social platforms. And so we are basing a lot of the foundation for friendships these days on what we see through social media. And I think I've had the privilege of becoming friends with a lot of people that way, true, authentic friendships. However, I've gone past just what I see on social media and have had real conversations. And so that's one of the hashtags that I'd love to use for In Their Closet, join the conversation, because looking at a picture is not enough to have a good idea of what a person is about. And judging, we hear that old cliche, judging a book by its cover, that's just not enough. And so I love to take all these beautiful personalities that we have looked at and liked on social media and take it a step further, have a good conversation with them, find out what they're about, how they started their business, how they came to be who we know them as, and then just kind of share in their journey and hear their testimony about where they are today. So that's the premise of In Their Closet, and it's just an opportunity to get to know people on a deeper level.
Oh, I love that. I really do. Because when I first started my Instagram page, like you notice, I don't show a picture of myself, but I
noticed that.
Yeah. And it was because I feel like sometimes when people, like when you put your picture up, you get followings just because of the way you look, or maybe you don't get followings because of the way you look. But, I wanted to just see what it's like to just kind of build relationships with people just based on what I'm posting, what I'm saying, my thoughts, opinions, and just things like that. But I am going to share myself with everyone because I feel like it might be a little creepy at this point when I'm like asking people for interviews and they're like, who is this girl? What does she look like?
That's the first thing I thought about. I was like, who is this person that's interviewing me? I have no idea.
Yes. So I'm going to definitely introduce myself to everyone and put up a picture. I just want it to be nice. So I'm trying to do it the right way,
Yeah.
So listening to your podcast, I've heard you talk about transitioning from I guess working a 9-to-5 or whatever to entrepreneurship. So I wanted to ask you, what has been the hardest part of that transition for you?
Well, to be quite honest with you, I am not an entrepreneurial spirited type person. I am an artist. I am a free spirit. And so I just kind of go with my path. I just kind of go with the flow. So it's really hard for me to lock down the discipline of an entrepreneur. And my husband is an entrepreneur, and he can get up in the morning without an alarm clock. He wakes up, he has a passion, he has all these things to do every single day. And so whether the alarm goes off at 6 o'clock or not, he's going to pop up and he's going to be ready to go. working in corporate America, I had a snooze button. I had 3 different times before I allowed myself to even get out of the bed. You know, I'd have like a 15-minute interval in between each alarm. And I just, you know, had to have that discipline on getting up in the morning and getting myself out there. And so now that I have the opportunity to get up whenever I want, I can start my day whenever. And so it's been a challenge for me, for sure. And that's why it's been great interviewing and speaking with other entrepreneurs, because I've learned so many little pointers from them about how to move forward. And I've established a time of the day that works for me and how to get things done and some type of timeline with organization. So that's been probably the most challenging part, but the most encouraging part, especially when you meet those challenges, meet those goals, and are able to like accomplish those things that you need to get done during the day. But it's been difficult because going to work, knowing how much time you have to sit in traffic, getting your coffee, just getting your momentum ready to start the day is totally different than telling yourself, like, you have to get this done. When you don't have anyone overseeing what is being completed, then you can kind of procrastinate and get it done when you want. And so now I've had to meet the new challenge of establishing myself seriously and taking my business to the next level. It's been very fun, this new chapter that I'm in.
Right. Yeah. I'm sure it's a little challenging because that all sounds so good, but also challenging, you know, because I do a 9 to 5 and then I do my podcast stuff, you know, later. And then I'm a mom and I'm married. So I totally get it. It's like a lot.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
Yeah, see, we don't know these things about you.
I know. See, nobody knows. I'm just, you know, hiding behind Instagram, just chilling out. No, I'm an open book.
I see.
I really am. I'm an open book, but, you know, I'm just trying to get into other people's business because I love learning, and you guys just inspire me to, you know, keep doing my best and trying to get to that next level in my life, you know? So.
Yeah, we're a lot in that way then, because I'm really intrigued by other people and their stories, and I see how successful other small businesses and other women entrepreneurs have become. And so I've just definitely kind of picked a lot of different brains and asked for advice, and that's where I've gotten today. And that's been one of the great reasons behind the show. It's allowed me to kind of talk to people who any other time, you know, wouldn't have had an opportunity to just sit down and talk. They've given me their story and they've shared with me the challenges. And I feel like if you have someone who's taken a trip, you know, to, I don't know, New York, and you've never been, it's an awesome experience to sit down and talk to someone about what should I take when I'm going on this trip to New York? What should I pack? Right. You know, what's the best time of the year to go? And so I feel like starting this business, aside from the podcast itself, but just starting this new business with consulting wardrobes was an opportunity for me to talk to different women and find out all the different resources that were available to me as far as becoming an entrepreneur. And so that has been really beneficial, like just talking to other people and having that inquisitive spirit, which is great because you and I, we have podcasts.
Yeah.
We like to talk to people, but to be able to utilize the things that they're saying and then apply it to my business is like a bonus.
Right. Absolutely. Yes. So can you tell us a little bit about your business? So
I'm a wardrobe consultant. I've done that for a couple of years. I've worked in corporate America, and I worked in oil and gas here in Houston, Texas. I did that for 6.5 years. Started in real estate, came out of college, and then started in real estate. Real estate was doing extremely well, and did that for a couple of years. And then when the bubble burst, I went into corporate America and just was doing something Monday through Friday so that I could just kind of stay busy. Most of my clients wanted to see homes on the weekends and in the evenings. And so I needed to utilize that time in a beneficial way. Started working in oil and gas. They found out about my real estate background and invited me into the land department, where I began to research titles and land restrictions and deeds for drilling wells and finding gas on properties. And so stayed in oil and gas for about 6.5 years. But while I was there, this creative spirit that I am in corporate America didn't have on, normal corporate America swag. I was still very fly, wearing 5-inch heels to work and wearing, everything that was fabulous in my closet. And so my boss and this is oil and gas. We've got a ton of engineers, a ton of landmen, a ton of geophysicists, and they're coming to me saying, you should style my wife. Like, you would be great. I love the way you dress. My wife.
That is so
my wife
funny.
would love. Yeah, my wife would love you. Would you let her know some things to wear for date night or some things to wear for we're going on this weekend? So I started doing it just because people would ask me from time to time. And then it began to kind of consume my time a little bit more. Right. And I didn't really want to ask people to pay me. Mm-hmm. And my husband says, listen, I think that you're doing this enough so that you probably should have people and I was like, I don't know what to charge. I don't know how to set anything up. And when oil and gas here in Houston, oil and gas began to go down. Mm-hmm. The prices were going down. The market was starting to change. I went back to school, and going back to school, got really comfortable. And now I'm on a college campus, so my attire has changed, and I'm at school, and my classmates are asking me, like, where do you shop at? And this, that, and the other. My husband says, listen, I think you should take this seriously. So I started handing out a couple of cards, and when I started to get more and more people asking me to declutter their closet, I charged them a little price, and work caught on enough for me to speak with an attorney, find out the little types of businesses that I could start or which business to set up. I chose an LLC, mm-hmm. and then started talking to friends. And then I started having these conversations, which eventually became the podcast. But the wardrobe consulting came from me just dressing so many different people in my inbox. I have a private account on Instagram, and a lot of women would send me messages and say, I see that you're going out with your husband. What should I wear for this event? What should I wear for that event? And my husband was seeing it. We share our account. And my husband was seeing it enough to say, you really, might want to consider. And with his nudging, it became In Their Closet. And then I created the website and kind of took it on by storm. Ironically, so now I get, more people walk up to me than handing out the cards, but mm-hmm. it's a privilege to be able to change people's closets and help them dress. It's fun too. I'm so appreciative for this opportunity.
Absolutely, because you love it, you're good at it, and it doesn't even feel like work,
No, it doesn't feel like work at all.
That is amazing. The thing that amazes me about that story is, like, even though you were doing other things, this thing just kept coming back to you. Like, no matter where you went, you're on a college campus, and they're still like, hey, can you help me? Yeah. Like, that's so amazing. That's when you're really supposed to be doing something.
Yeah, and the fun thing about dressing kids on college campuses or dressing, executives' wives is that the budget always changes, so there's always a challenge, and you can find an ensemble in every budget. That's the fun part. Mm-hmm. And I think every person is different, so I've really enjoyed doing this. I was afraid that I'd get tired of it, but I've enjoyed doing it for the last 2.5 years.
Wow, that's amazing. So
mm-hmm.
How do you decide who you want to interview for your podcast?
So I come up with these different, series that I want to delve into in the beginning, because I didn't know how I was going to start the podcast. I just called on a lot of my girlfriends mm-hmm. who are all business owners. And so I decided that we'd started off with a boss the Boss Women series. And so I talked to all these different women entrepreneurs and their stories about how they were able to start was something that resonated with me, and I knew that it would resonate with other women. And now we're in Men in Fashion, and how that started is because Clear with Cocktails was here in Houston, and, you know, I had to be at that event because I love Claire Summers. And being there, you have all these different fashionistas, and I'm letting everyone know I've got a podcast coming. I'd love to talk with you. And I ran into one of my good friends, Jay McLean, who is a stylist for a lot of different, we just had him on the podcast. He's a stylist he's Houston's go-to celebrity stylist. Oh, nice. But he works with a lot of different people. And I saw him and I said, I want you on the podcast. And he says, well, Lisa, it says fashionistas and you've got all these women. And I said, don't worry, I'm going to get you on the show. And right after that, I met up with another person who was managing models. And I said, I got to think of a way to incorporate all these different men that I know, because when I send them the information about the podcast, it's talking about like women and women in fashion. And they're like, well, listen, you know, I'm not bringing my wife on the show when I talk to you. So once I find a guest and I like what they're talking about and it relates to women, it relates to fashion, or it relates to Houston, those are the three principles. Those are the three main criteria that I look for. As long as it relates to Houston, to women, or to fashion, then I want them on the show. And it's just about getting the right series together to present it to my audience. So some of the interviews I sat on for a couple of months because I needed a series. So I needed a couple of other men. And so it's so hard to book men for my show. They're like, you know, working and they're nervous, but it's been so fun.
Yeah, they're good. I listened to both those interviews and they were great. I loved the guy who manages the models. Yeah, he was good and he gave, you know, good tips and things like that. I like that. Yeah, it's really good.
I'm so glad you listened to the show.
I really do. I'm obsessed with podcasts. So I listen to everything. I'm like all over the place. I'm a busybody.
Me too. Me too. What's your favorite podcast?
Okay, so I like yours.
Besides your own.
Oh God, I know, right? I started listening to a finance one. What's her name? I think, is it Clever Girl for Finance or something like that? That one is good too. I listened to a sex podcast. It's Angela Yee's that lip service.
Yeah, lip service.
Yes, I like that. It's really raunchy. Sometimes I'm sitting at my desk like, oh my God, I can't believe they're saying that.
Yes, I listen to that one too, especially at the gym when I'm running on the treadmill. No one knows what I'm laughing at. I'm listening to them. I picked up some pointers. Next month I'll be married for 14 years. I've learned a lot listening to that podcast.
Nice, congratulations.
And then I listen to the Casey Crew. Do you listen to that one?
No, I haven't. I actually tried to listen to it once, and I was a little bored. I don't know.
Yeah,
I just a little bit.
They talk about marriage stuff, but yeah, I can see, because I started with them, so some of them I just listen to them because I just listen to their call. I feel like I'm listening in on their conversation. Right. But yeah, I can see how that you could get bored a little bit, because my husband can't listen to it. But I'm like, they're talking about marriage stuff. They're talking like us.
I know. Then you know what else I listen to? I listen to Drink Champs because I love music. I love hip hop. So I love that podcast. Just listening to Noriega, he's a rapper, and he interviews all the old school rappers who no one really pays attention to anymore. But his philosophy is give our people, you know, flowers while they're alive to receive them, you know, honor them while they're still here. So he has like all these old school, you know, acts on the show. So it's really interesting because they tell stories about, you know, like he had Little C's on the other day, and he was talking about Biggie and just all the stuff that went on when Biggie was alive and stuff. So it's really interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's a nice niche. That's a great audience, because we hear so many different podcasts right now with the artists that are out on present day radio. So that's a good idea.
Exactly. Yep. And the other day he had Trina, you know, so that was interesting too. I didn't know that she's Dominican and Bahamian. Yeah, like her mom is
Oh,
from
wow.
right, and her father's Dominican.
Yeah.
But she was like, "Well, I don't really have a relationship with my father, so I was raised by my mom, so I'm more Bahamian than anything." So I was like, "Wow,
Wow.
Just-
Yeah, I thought she was just high yellow.
yeah,
I did not know.
exactly. I never knew that." And sometimes I listen
Wow.
to Amber Rose, so she has a podcast too.
Oh,
yes,
I didn't know Amber Rose had a podcast.
Yes, and it's about sex and women empowerment and all this stuff. But you know, her version of women empowerment is a little bit different from ours, probably. So, but
Yeah.
it's still interesting.
Yeah, Amber Rose. I love Amber Rose, and I've been trying to get some girlfriends so that we could do like a panel discussion, especially after she took that Instagram pose of the bush. I've been wanting to talk about that bush forever.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's got a different perception on women empowered than I think of. But it's okay.
Yeah, you know, it's your thing, girl. Do your thing. I like her too. You know, I think she's gorgeous, and you know, but. So, what do you enjoy the most about podcasting?
Well, what I enjoy the most right now is that one of my daily rituals, the first thing I do in the morning is I read my verse of the day. And then while I'm getting dressed in the bathroom, I give myself 30 minutes from the time I get in the shower to the time I get out. And that's when I'm listening to Charles Stanley. Mm-hmm. I listen to Charles Stanley in the morning, and he's a Atlanta Baptist minister. And so I hear his sermon every day. He does a 30-minute podcast every single day, and it's just a segment of his sermons from the Sunday service that they run through the podcast. And I listen to that. So that's how I start my day, and I feel so goal-oriented and on task when I can completely be dressed and done by the time that music goes off on his podcast. So that's one of the things that I'm really proud of, is staying on mark and getting my word in the morning, getting encouraged, get my prayer in. Mm-hmm. And then I live in Houston, so if I have to run errands, there's going to be traffic. I live in Cinco Ranch, which is about 20 to 30 minutes outside of the Houston area. Mm-hmm. And so there's going to be traffic on I-10. There's going to be traffic anywhere I go. It's great to like switch to Bluetooth mode and listen to conversations in my car. I'm not upset sitting in traffic anymore because my mind is like on all these different conversations that I'm listening to, and a lot of things are enlightening and encouraging. Some things I've learned that I wouldn't have learned, and I don't have to have these conversations with my girlfriends necessarily. Like I get to learn things about marriage and things about sex without having to share my personal business with my girlfriend. So that's one of the things that I love about podcasts. I feel like, and people have told me the same thing with my podcast. They're like, I'm laughing and enjoying these podcasts with you guys like I'm right there. That's how I feel when I'm listening to some podcasts. I feel like I'm just a part of a great conversation.
Yeah.
And unlike having lunch with my girlfriends, you know, when I walk away, I don't feel like I'm being judged. I don't feel like they've judged me or I have to judge them. I feel like, you know, it's just a great segment for the time, a great way to pass the time.
Yeah, I agree. So in your own podcasting experience with your show, what is the thing that you least like about having to do a podcast? Like, is there anything about the whole process of podcasting that you're just like, oh, I dread? Like for me, it was the editing, you know, learning this program and stuff because I do it all by myself. But
what program do you use?
I use Audacity.
Me too.
Yeah.
So we record in a studio, but I was when I went back to school, I interned for a radio station. One of my professors has he's a part of a radio station here in Houston, and so I had an opportunity to intern with him. And when I interned with him, I loved the studio portion of broadcasting. Mm-hmm. So I knew that I wanted to have my guests in the studio. And then one of the sound engineers said, sometimes you might not be able to have people in the studio. So let me show you this equipment that you can use on your computer. Mm-hmm. And he showed that to me, and I was like, okay, that's cool. He showed me how to edit. So what has happened for us is that we record in a studio. The hard part is aligning schedules and getting my guests in the studio. And the studio time is expensive. Oof. So that would be one of the things that I dread. and then the schedule conflicts. Those are one of the things that I dread. But once the session is recorded, I get that sent to me in an MP3 form, and then I edit it on Audition. And I love to have the opportunity to go and edit and listen to that interview all over again. And so a lot of people have asked me, like, why do you edit the interviews? And that's because one of the first couple of interviews that I did, one of the young ladies had kind of like a speech impediment, and she had conquered this speech impediment, but she it was kind of okay. So this is what was happening. So she had a stuttering problem, and so to prevent herself from stuttering, before she would answer the question, she would pause, and there might be like a 5-second delay, and then she would slowly respond, and sometimes there would be long pauses in between the conversation, and the conversation was a little bit slower, but I understood why. Plus, she was doing me a favor. Like, you know, she was giving me some really good business advice.
Right.
So what I did was, after that interview was done in the studio, I got to take it and edit it, and I cleaned up all those pauses. So when I presented the actual podcast, it just sounded like you and I are talking just like this. Like, you could not tell that there were any breaks at all.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I love. But I have a producer. Her name is Courtney, and she's a perfectionist. So once I've cleaned up the podcast, I send it to her. She adds the intro, the outro, any ads that we might have, and she'll have it for like a day or two, and then I get it back. So my number one thing that I hate is on the day of the podcast, every time we load it, the host will kick back an error, like, you know, MP3 file is too big, or, you know, something. It never fails. Every single day I'm like panicking.
Oh my
But other than that, I love the whole process. I love the studio. I love all that. But it's a headache, and I can see how tough it would be doing it just you. Like, oh my gosh.
It's challenging, but you know what? When you do it and you put it out there and it sounds good, you're like, oh my God, I did that, you know? So you're like,
yes,
you know, so that's the,
that's amazing.
So do you feel like Instagram has helped you with your business? Like, you know, your podcast and then the other business that you have going on. Do you feel like it's a good tool? Or, I mean, I know you've met great people, but, you know, in terms of business.
Okay, so I'm going to be very honest with you in regards to this. And Jay and I talked about it on the podcast last week. Instagram has been, for me, Instagram is like, instead of passing out your business card in person, Instagram is kind of like a social media business card. Like, it's a flyer that people, it's just on the timeline, and people will find you, or their friends will refer you, and it's a good point of contact. Have I received like a ton of business where people have hired me? No, I've probably received 2 clients from Instagram. I have received a lot more people who have contacted me about being on the show. So I've met probably about 45 to 50 people who have contacted me and who have said, I have a story that I would love to share on your podcast. So, you know, then it comes down to just finding a series where I can group them in and present it. But the as far as wardrobe consulting, and then on the site, we do resell on my website. We resell different items in people's closet. No, that hasn't generated any type of, Instagram hasn't generated any type of sales for me that way. The sales that I've received have been from me sending emails and messages to friends and family, and people contacting and going on the site and getting things that way. But Instagram for me hasn't done it. Now, I have hired a brand marketing attorney who has given me a lot of different ways to monetize my business. And I am just hoping to see that come into fruition eventually. But right now, it's like getting out there and meeting people face to face, and then them saying, oh, let me go to your website and let me see what you're doing. That has been the most beneficial way for me. Instagram has only increased my following, but those likes and those numbers don't equate to dollars, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Not yet.
That was so funny when you said on your podcast, oh, well, sometimes you see people with like 35,000 followers and then their pictures get like 3 likes or 2 likes. And you're like, that's weird. That's so funny. It's true.
Yes. And you know what? I'm sure it's happened to you too, but I've received different little companies saying, well, we can get you 100 likes. We can post your picture and, you'll get more of a following. But I wanted to be sure that the people who were following me because they were interested in the podcast or interested in the product. And I wanted to grow organically. So if we only have 500 followers and 50 likes, I'm okay with that. Right. I'm okay with knowing these 50 people really like what we're doing. And one day, they're going to see something on that timeline and they're going to say, let me go to intheircloset.us and let me get a product from Lisa and see what's going on.
Exactly.
One of these days.
Yes. I feel the same way. I'm like that too. I'll just take my little followers and, just mosey along. And some days I lose 10 and I gain 5 more or whatever. But, I'd rather do it that way too. So I'm going to ask you about your shoes, and then I'm going to ask you about your oh hell no moment of the week, and then I'm going to let you go. So,
okay.
I love your shoes, and I know that I asked you about this in the DM, but the shoe thing, and I ask every single person about this because I swear, how do you wear beautiful shoes and look comfortable? And how do you pick shoes that make you feel comfortable? Like, is there a secret? Is there anything that you can do to like wear comfortable, beautiful shoes?
Well, I'm going to be very transparent in this moment and tell you that if it were up to me, because I'm still 19-year-old Lisa who had a kid who lives on a budget. My son's 23 years old now, but when I look at things and I shop, I have like that frugal mind. Mm-hmm. My husband is more extravagant. So my husband loves Louboutins, and he started coming home, or he would point out and say like, oh, that shoe looks good. That shoe looks good. And he started buying them. And because it was a wonderful, kind, loving gesture, I had to learn how to implement these shoes into my closet. The number one way to wear a Christian Louboutin is to stretch it first, especially if it's a closed-toe shoe. If it's an open toe, I can put that bad boy on and go. But if it's a closed toe, or if there's any type of narrow cap in the shoe, then I use a shoe spray, and it's a shoe stretcher spray. I spray it into the shoe, use a shoe horn, and I'll stretch my shoe for at least a couple of weeks, sometimes even a couple of months before I get around to the shoe. And which is one of the main reasons why I've never been pressed about as soon as the shoe comes out to buy it, because I can't wear it immediately anyway. It's gonna take me a couple of weeks before I can get in it, unless it's an open toe shoe.
Yeah.
So the best way to wear a Louboutin is to spray it first, and then let it stretch it. Take it to the shoe hospital, let it stretch, and then once you've stretched it, then you can wear it. I love to buy a shoe first and then line my outfit up. So I always hunt for my shoe first. And normally, because I have great salespeople at Saks and at Nordstrom's and Neiman's, they'll let me know when a sale is coming. So if I go in to get the shoe regular price, they'll say, you can hold up because we're going to be having a private sale, and private sales are the best. They pull out all the stops and bring the champagne, and then you can just pick and order stuff. And then there are some shoes, as soon as they come out, like when the Cruel Summer came out by Giuseppe, when that shoe came out, like I wanted it right away. And so there are certain shoes where you can't wait for a sale. You just got to get that bad boy. I mean, it's a statement shoe. You want it. And then there are some shoes where, they're going to go on sale. So you can get a $5,000 shoe for like half price. So I guess it just depends on the event and how you're going to get your, compliments, if you're going to do a photo shoot. All of these are things that I consider when I'm dressing my clients. Like, are you going to wear this shoe again? Are we just wearing it for, a statement or family photos? Or, are you accepting a speech or delivering? Are you going to be a keynote speaker? All of these things are things that you consider.
Right.
I think the most comfortable shoe that I own is the YSL Tribute, the sandal. It's a classic, I feel like, as far as YSL is concerned. And I have a couple of different colors. It has a pump, and so you can stand up and wear this. It's a higher heel, but because of there's probably about a 1-inch platform. Because of that platform, it's super comfortable. And so that would be my go-to shoe if I had to tell anyone to get a shoe. It's probably about $9.95, but I feel like it comes in all these different colors, and it's been out for at least 5 to 7 years. And I don't think that YSL is going to remove that shoe anytime soon. So that would be the shoe I would suggest. If anybody was starting off their closet, I would say go to YSL and get you a bag and get you a Tribute pump, and you're going to be good.
That's awesome. All right, darling. So tell us, what was your oh hell no moment of the week? So anything. It could be something you read. Anything.
My oh hell no moment of the week was, let's see. I didn't even think about this yet. Okay. Well, I'm really late, but I saw on my DVR, I'm catching up with everything, and I saw Black Girls Rock, and I loved, is oh hell no a bad thing or a good thing?
It could be either, because it could be something that annoys you when you say, oh, hell no. It could be something great, and you're like, oh, hell no, that is nice. Like, whatever.
Yes. I saw Maxine Walters, I believe that's her name, the Congresswoman.
Yes.
I saw her get up, and I saw her deliver her speech, and I saw her reclaiming her time, and I saw the rap. I saw the rap for that, and I was like, oh, hell no, they didn't do a little rap for this. Like, I've been completely in the dark, but I thought it was great. I thought it was great how everything is so social media related. But the funniest part was her saying, I went from having 40,000 followers to now having 420,000 followers. I was like, no, she didn't talk about her followers during her acceptance speech. But I just think that's where we're at today. So I think it's awesome.
Yeah, it really is. That was a good one. All right. Well, it was such a pleasure talking to you. Please tell us your, your Instagram page so we can follow you and, catch up with what you're doing.
My Instagram page is In Their Closet Podcast. And we are intheircloset.us. That's our website. And on Instagram, we are sharing different photos of ensembles that we love, and of clothes and of shoes. And of course, I am allowing my audience to become familiar with me. So there are a lot of pictures that I've been bringing back, kind of throwbacks. I've introduced them as Transformation Tuesdays and Monday Motivations. But I am allowing my audience on Instagram to become more familiar with me. So you guys go to In Their Closet Podcast, and then you'll get to check me out.
Great. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.